This is Answer Me That on Storm FM, sponsored by Bar Uno.
Hello and welcome to Answer Me That on Storm FM, sponsored by Bar Uno. This week coming up, what is Skynet? Is it just off the movies or is it real? What is agoraphobia and why it shouldn't be confused with agoraphobia? What can't be 3D printed these days? Why is it dangerous to drink and exercise? How safe are you on an aeroplane, and what's going to happen to The Simpsons? All that and more coming up.
This is Answer Me That on Storm FM. Send your questions to studio@stormfm.com, facebook.com/stormamt, or text STORM plus your message to 60300. Text charged at your standard network rate.
So, to our first question, what is the new Skynet? What it was in the movie Terminator, a computer basically trying to destroy the world. But the NSA has decided to show they've got a sense of humour, and they've actually named one of their programs Skynet. So this was first recorded or reported, as far as I can tell, on Glenn Greenwald's site, The Interceptor. He's a US attorney at law and also a journalist, mainly for The Guardian, on his spare time. And he's an author, apparently. But anyway, down to what this actually is. So what Skynet is basically the NSA working with telecoms companies and things like that. And they're tracking the use of mobile data. And they've actually connected journalists and other people among them, unnamed mainly, to terrorist groups such as Al-Qaeda and things like that. And what they do is, where they have reports of terrorism and where these people allegedly are, they'll try and match up the mobile data with the positioning of where these people have been, because it doesn't matter where you are or what settings on your phone. If it's receiving a signal, it can more or less be tracked to quite precise amounts by your phone company. So that's what they've been doing. They've been matching up the data with cell towers and things like that to track people along with sightings and things like that. And by doing this, they've actually matched up a couple of people with different terrorist groups. And although it's not quite as self-aware as Skynet on Terminator, it is getting more and more progressive to the point where it's starting to pick things up on its own and you don't have to be leaning over it 24/7. So yeah, Skynet's real. I didn't fall asleep in front of the telly. And to coincide with that, there's actually been a report by the FBI. I can't remember who it was against. Chris Roberts, who does something. And I can't see it. But anyway, he found out that planes with IFE, or in-flight entertainment, so when you sit down there's a TV screen in front of you. Every couple of seats there's one of these boxes which controls the screens and tells it what to pair up, whether it's one of these ones where you can track the flight or watch certain channels or whatever the movie is and things like that. It controls it all, and it's all connected into a central computer within the aircraft. And obviously everything gets connected to this. They all get powered roughly by the same energy and things like that. And what he's discovered is, if you actually tamper with these boxes, he's tampered with it to connect a MacBook Air to it. And he was able to control the thrust on the engine, apparently. It's conflicting reports of what he's said outside of the FBI and what the FBI have said that he's done. Because all the meetings were behind closed doors, it's he said this, she said that kind of thing, so that there's no official thing. But what he's basically found is that you can tell it to climb and things like that and add thrust, or he can tell it to stop and use less. And he has tried talking to the FBI in the past about things like this and tried telling them that planes aren't as secure as they should be, and if you've got the know-how, you can basically hack into them and take control. There is investigations going on into this, and they are seeing what can be done to stop it. But apparently on the flight that he was on, two of these little control boxes were tampered with, and he says he hasn't touched any of them to tamper with them on the flight he was on, but he's now banned from all US flights with a certain airline. I can't remember what it was. But this was first reported in Wired magazine, and all I've got is what's on The Verge, so if you want to read up more, have a look. But basically, planes aren't as secure as they used to be, and it could be a long time before they're as secure as people think they are. Not to say it's dangerous to go on them, because if you are found tampering with an aircraft, you're more than likely going to get arrested by an air marshal or thrown off the flight and taken to the nearest police station. So don't mess with aircraft, basically. But yeah, anything connected to a network, though, technically you can hack. Like, not necessarily you and me, but people with the know-how. So anything connected to the internet can potentially be taken over, which is why a lot of people nowadays with laptops and built-in webcams stick a piece of tape over it and things like that, because there are videos out there. They are to public connectable webcams and things, which for some reason people think they're hacking when they're just logging into it. But anyway, anything on the internet can be hacked, and what he's found is anything on the plane's network can basically be hacked if you go in the right way. And to go along with that, and to carry on with the theme of aircrafts, why not talk about what 3D printers can't do? So in the past we've heard about guns and other weapons and knives and things like that being printed out of plastic and using a nail for the head of the gun and things like that. They've also been used in medical procedures to make artificial heart valves and things like that, so that people don't have to wait necessarily for transplants and for patients to die so they can have their organs and things like that. NASA also built a 3D printer which can print pizzas, funnily enough. You'd think they'd have better things to spend their time and money on, but there you go. You can now print 3D pizzas. And we already know about things like plastic ratchets and screwdrivers and things like that. The tools are pretty easy to print. All you got to do is go on Instructables or a website like that, download the package, and print it off, and it's easy as pie. But GE have produced this 3D printer, or they've bought it, which prints out in metal. And when you watch it, it looks like it's using a laser to actually print. And they've printed off an entire miniature jet engine out of it, which they've tested, and it completely works. The initial idea was for it to be for RC remote-controlled aircraft. But they found that it actually works, and there is the potential for it to be used on a mass scale to produce it for proper-sized aircrafts in the future. All they've got to do after they've printed it is file it down and make sure that all the parts fit together. And basically what you do with any 3D print, whether it's plastic or whatever. And it works. So that could cut down potentially the costs of producing jet engines with all the different people and the smelting and things like that. In the future, you could see everything 3D printed, let's be honest. You can print a lot of things nowadays, and they've been doing PCBs, printed circuit boards, for ages, where they just put it through a machine and it prints off, so they can fit the components and make computers and things like that. So eventually you could see the basically entire manufacturing industry go into 3D printers and all being produced by computers and robotics. So whether you see that as a good thing or a bad thing with people losing jobs, but with things becoming cheaper and technology going forward, it's up to you.
This is Answer Me That on Storm FM. Send your questions to studio@stormfm.com, facebook.com/stormamt, or text Storm plus your message to 60300.
So, welcome back. Now we're going to talk about The Simpsons and what's actually going to happen to it. So you may remember it was either last year or the year before Marcia Wallace died, the voice of Mrs. Krabappel. But now there's another actor who's threatening, well, he is leaving The Simpsons, or at least he's put off renewing his contract, which is why the next 2 seasons haven't even started production yet. And this is the voice of Ned Flanders, Mr. Burns, and Principal Skinner, other known as Harry Shearer. Now, it's not quite clear what's going to happen with The Simpsons, but James L. Brooks' lawyer has said the show will go on and Harry will not be a part of it, and they wish him the best. This was tweeted out from Harry Shearer's official Twitter page, and he says he wants the freedom to do other work and he wishes him the very best. And then Harry himself thanks the Simpsons fans for all their support and everything. So we've seen since Marcia died, there's been no Miss Scribble, there's been no attempts to replace her or bring in someone else to do the voice. Now, with someone like Mr. Burns and Ned Flanders, of course Ned Flanders was one of the main characters, so they're going to have to either find someone to replace at least his voice or bring in someone else. Same with Principal Skinner, he appears in most of the episodes where you've got Bart and Lisa, and it's centered around them. So the question is, are people going to start sending in their voices and record themselves? Because there are tons of people who do impressions. There's videos all over the internet of people doing the voices of people from The Simpsons and Family Guy and stuff like that, whilst they're playing games and pretending to be the characters. So will one of them get the job on The Simpsons of being the new voice of Flanders, Mr. Burns and Principal Skinner? Now, Harry Shearer also does quite a few little side voices as well. He's done some of the other characters. So he's quite a big loss to the Simpsons family and to what it was. But the Simpsons have been going on for years and years now, and it doesn't look like they're going to end anytime soon. They just opened a new theme park in Los Angeles. So it seems a weird time as well with that going on for him to have left The Simpsons. Now, he said he loved the job and things like that, and he wants the creative freedom to do other things, but again, is the question, who's going to replace him? So our next question is, why is it dangerous to drink and do exercise? Now, this may seem obvious to some of you when you see your friends drunk and they've lost all inhibitions and they are accident prone, to say the least. But there's also other dangers. So alcohol actually increases your heart rate. It does something called vasodilator, which relaxes the peripheral blood vessels to allow blood to flow through the skin and the tissue to get to the top so it can be cooled by air, etc. Now, this increases your heart rate because the blood has further to go. With the vessels being open, there's more room for it to take up, so your heart rate increases. This can also increase your breath rate, so your breathing. So with your heart rate already increased and your breath increased, if you're exercising, you're increasing it further, and there is the likelihood of heart failure, so a heart attack or something like that. But also with being with the blood flow being increased and things like that, there is the potential for you to harm your brain if you have too much blood flowing. Is the same if you take ecstasy or something like that. It does things to your body to fool it into thinking it's doing something when it's not. So your body increases its rate and eventually shuts down, ending in death. But also, if you're exercising, it can dull pains, and it can make it so if you hurt yourself, you don't actually feel it. And if you think about it, if you're on a running machine and you break your toe and you keep on running, that's not going to be good for you in the long run, and it's not going to be good for the toe setting. It may need to be rebroken in the first place for it to be set. So if you are doing exercises, don't drink first. It can be very dangerous.
You're listening to Answer Me That on Storm FM. Don't forget to send your questions to facebook.com/StormAMT.
So, welcome back. Next up, we're going to be discussing agoraphobia. Now, if you've ever watched High Hopes, you'll know about Fagin and how he says he has agoraphobia. Now, this apparently is something so common that on Wikipedia, yes, the source for all knowledge, everyone knows is always correct, is so common that they say it's not to be confused with agoraphobia. Now, agoraphobia is also known as contraltophobia. I think I pronounced that right, but God knows. If you know it's wrong, then email in with a soundbite. But anyway, this is the fear of abnormal sexual abuse, so it's not what Fagin had, and he was very confused and very wrong to say it, whether that was for comic effect or because he's from a well-known valley and it's not the brightest people there, and they're not the brightest people on the show, but there you go. If you've never seen it, go have a look at it. It's quite a good show. But anyway, agoraphobia is the fear of being in situations where escape might be difficult or help won't be available if things go wrong. It's generally when people leave home, when they visit shopping centres, travel on public transport, or in wide open areas where they're not somewhere they know is safe and secure and where they can get help. It usually has symptoms similar to that of a panic attack, with a rapid heart rate, rapid breathing, feeling hot and sweaty and feeling sick. And there are quite a few people who have it who don't realise they have it. They just think they hate being in crowds and things like that. It's not generally something you have to worry about too much, but it can be treated if you want it to be treated by things like cognitive behavioural therapy. This is where you'll talk with someone and they'll talk out what kinds of things you're worried about and what thoughts are irrational and what's rational, and potentially make you feel at least calmer about going into these situations. Usually it's good if you go through a therapy of that kind of thing in a group, because if you all hate being in, say, a crowd, then you go into a crowd together and at least you know you can support one another rather than being left for dead if you fall over and break your ankle or something. It can also be treated by selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SSRIs. These are things your doctor can prescribe, and essentially what these do is they up your serotonin levels and they help the synapses in your brain fire more, so you feel a bit calmer and more relaxed, but you're not overthinking things, basically. So they're the sorts of things you can go talk to a doctor about if you do want help on something like that. There was a story recently about a agoraphobic grandmother who had a fear of open spaces for a long time, and in 10 years she's only gone out 3 times. And unfortunately, on her last time out, she was asked to get out of a car to help her friend to reverse it, because she'd just been to a garage, just had it fixed, and she couldn't get out. So Janet Fowle, the woman, pushed these crates out of the way, and as she turned round to say, "Is that far enough?" she actually fell down a broken manhole cover. Her one foot went in, and I think she broke her ankle or fractured it. She hit her face on the pallet, and she's got bruising all around her face now. And she had to wait nearly an hour in agony for the ambulance, because they'd put it down as category C, which basically means anything category A or B comes first. So life-threatening things being A, B being quite severe things which need treatment, and C being we'll get there when we get there. Unfortunately for her, this was her 3rd time out in 10 years, and she doesn't necessarily want to go out again. She's got quite bad swelling and quite bad bruised face. So it is something which can be rational at times, and being stuck in a hole for nearly an hour, you wouldn't want to go out soon after that anyway. So hopefully she'll be better soon and out and about. But until then, she'll have to rest up.
This is Answer Me That on Storm FM, sponsored by Bar Uno.
Unfortunately, that's it from us today, but don't forget to get in contact with your questions for next week by emailing studio@stormfm.com, text Storm plus your message to 60300, go to facebook.com/stormamt, or go to our website answermethat.tk, where you can also listen back to our old episodes. Don't forget, if you are watching this after the fact on YouTube, to like and subscribe to our channel for all the latest videos and all the latest news.
This is Answer Me That on Storm FM. Send your questions to studio@stormfm.com, facebook.com/stormamt, or text Storm plus your message to 60300.